Hi everyone, happy Monday. It is Janet Wakeland with Remarkably Created. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to look at some fun and easy ways for you to alter your Stampin' Up! Embellishments and your Stampin' Up! Ribbon. In the current annual catalog, starting on page 139, you're going to find lots and lots of beautiful Stampin' Up! Ribbon and trim. You're going to find all of our beautiful embellishments. And I bet you're also probably got lots of Stampin' Up! Retired ribbons and embellishments in your stash. Now, why would you want to alter them? Well, number one, because you can. Number two, because it's just physically impossible for Stampin' Up! To carry every single type of embellishment on the market, to simply keep older embellishments in the catalog and add new embellishments, because there's just like endless opportunities for so many different colors out there that there just wouldn't be pages for stamps or room on the pick line for all kinds of other things. So many times what's going to happen is we're going to alter something to customize it to the color or the look that we want. In addition, one of the reasons why I also love to alter my ribbon and trim and my embellishments is because it adds value two ways. It adds value to that ribbon and trim and those embellishments that I have in my crafting stash, and it adds value to what I use to alter the embellishments with. It gives me one more way to use the things that I'm going to show you in my craft studio, so it adds that extra value. So let's put the catalog away, and let's just first start with some different embellishments. And I just pulled a couple to give you a couple current ones and a couple upcoming ones. These brushed metallic dots will be in the holiday catalog, and these fun kind of self-adhesive stars are also in the holiday catalog. And then we have our opal rounds and our hydrangea gems here. And so, excuse me about that. Oh, and then we have some of our artistry sequins. So one of the easiest ways to embellish them is to simply grab your Stampin' Blends. Your Stampin' Blends, when you use them on things, will become permanent. So they're a great ink for working on things like glass and your non-porous surfaces and your tiles and things like that. So when I work with my Stampin' Blends to alter any of the embellishments, I like to either isolate them, keeping them on their little background. So I either like to isolate them, pulling, just one off, or I like to work right on the sheet. I don't work with them when they're on the finished project, because there's no way to keep the ink off of the finished project if you're working with them that way. So again, I either like to work with them right on their sheet, or I like to simply just isolate one off to the side. When I'm working with my Stampin' Blends, I'm gonna work with the brush tip, and I'm gonna work with it on its side. I don't wanna kind of really be mushing that point down. I might gently take it around the side, but for the most part, I'm gonna go ahead and just be real gentle, trying to preserve that tip. And now if I lay that embellishment down, you've got this beautiful pale pink, and here you've got our beautiful brand new polished pink. Same thing here if I was to work on this source here. Look at the difference. So now I've got polished pink embellishments. If I went over here to the holographic star, I could do the same thing. Now, obviously when you're working with your lighter embellishments, you're going to get a much sharper contrast. You're going to get a nicer look. And let's just do one of these gold ones here just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So if I take this sweet little embellishment, our pearl, and I lay it next to that matte gold, you can see this one's really muted because of the finish that we started with, and the fact that we started with a darker color underneath than the shinier gold, or the shinier pink that's part of this one. So again, what you're starting with underneath is going to impact the finished color that you have. An example of that would be, let's take our dark night of navy here, and I'm gonna just take our sequins, and I'm gonna just go ahead and darken that. Now it's not gonna be totally navy, okay, but it is gonna start to turn blue on us. It will have a little bit of the color of the sequin underneath kind of peeking through. But what I can do is I can let it sit, let it dry. It'll take a few seconds, and then I can come back in and I can just keep adding a little bit of color to continue to darken it. So Stampin' Blends is definitely one of the ways that you have to alter that, and that adds value to your Stampin' Blends. It gives you one more thing that you're able to do with your Stampin' Blends. Now maybe you don't have Stampin' Blends in your collection, but maybe you have Sharpies, and no, Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell these, but I am a Sharpie junkie. I absolutely love Sharpies. The downside to using Sharpies versus Stampin' Blends is that you're not going to have Stampin' Up! Colors. You're not going to have Stampin' Up's color coordination by using Sharpies, but maybe you don't want it. Maybe you were looking for something that's going to have this really, really fun bright green, and that's the color and the look that you're going for. Or maybe you're looking for a metallic. Sharpie has a whole line of metallics, and so maybe that's what you're going for, is that metallic. And of course, this marker's dry. Let me grab one that doesn't work. But it would work if it was not as dry as it is right now. But they have a whole line of metallics. So Sharpies is another way for you to alter those embellishments if you don't have Stampin' Blends. Or even if you do have Stampin' Blends. Again, sometimes you're looking for Stampin' Up! Color coordination, and sometimes you're looking for a very specific color, for example, like that neon green. Now, another option that you have for altering the embellishments, the first one is by embossing them. And what I do when I emboss them is I take, and again, I isolate some of them. I usually do a couple of them at a time instead of just one, but you can indeed do just one. I leave them on their backing, and then I take them and I would push them all the way down into the Versamark and just kind of really mush them really, really good, getting a good coating of Versamark on them. I would dip them in the powder, shake any excess powder off, and then I'm going to heat them. And yes, there's heating on that, there's gold on that backing, and that's okay. We're not going to use that backing, we're going to throw it away. But the most important part is that the dots are embossed. So you can go ahead and emboss any of your embellishments by simply mushing them into and that's a technical term, you're going to mush them into your Versamark. You're gonna then go ahead and put embossing powder on it, shake off any excess, and then you're going to heat them. Now, something else that you can do with them, these here, I had a little bit of glitter added, and no, there's no real glitter in the current Stampin' Up! Catalog, but I'm sure as good crafters, all of you have a stash of glitter. And to glitter these, what I did, you can do one of two things. What I did in this case was, again, I mushed them right back down in that Versamark pad. I put heat and stick powder on them, which is basically a powder form of glue. Heated the powder up, and then I sprinkled glitter over them, knocked any excess off, and then went ahead and just touched it back up with just a little bit of heat. And now I've got really pretty glittered dots. One other thing that you can do with the different embellishments is you can take the Wink of Stella and you can go ahead and add a little bit of glitter to any of them. So you could go ahead and start to coat them, and that's going to add a fine layer of glitter to them. So lots of different options that you have for altering embellishments, customizing them, making them the exact color that you want, making them work for you, and also giving you a chance to use them up. A lot of times we don't use them, for example, because maybe we don't have the exact blue that we're looking for, so they just sit there. And so this also gives me a chance to use up my embellishments. And for me, anytime I use something up, that gives me free reign to go shopping for new stuff, right? Oh, and then hold on a second. Altering them also works, not just on our self-adhesive type of ones, but here in front of you, I have two of our gold bees and two of our different flowers. This little flower actually started off life as our papaya. And let me hold it up for you. I know I've got the camera a little far away tonight. But here, can you see that it is indeed Daffodil Delight, and here it's the pale papaya. And if I don't know if you can see the green on the bumblebee. Both the bumblebee and the little papaya flower were colored with our Stampin' Blends. So again, Stampin' Blends or your Sharpies will work even on these type of embellishments. And then if you have like a fine tip Sharpie, you could go in between the raised lines on the bee and maybe make it black and gold. So you've got the same options there for going ahead and altering these embellishments as well. Brads are really easy to emboss because you're able to just really mush them down in that pad, tap them into embossing powder, and then you can go ahead and emboss them and add color to them that way. Or of course, because these have a nice smooth surface, they're also extremely easy to alter. And for me, I would save altering, if I was doing any embossing at all, it would be on the black ones. And I would save the white ones. It's easier if you use the brush end, Janet Marie. Hold on a second. And I would save the white ones for altering with my Stampin' Blends. So there, you don't have to ever fuss that we don't have something in every color. As long as you have your Stampin' Blends, you are good to go. Now, if you don't have Stampin' Blends, an alternative idea for you is to go ahead and use our Stampin' Right markers, but then to seal them with our shimmery crystal effects or with clear embossing powder. So if you do not have Stampin' Blends or Sharpies, again, Stampin' Right markers or our ink pads, dip this down in a dark navy ink pad and then seal it, again, with crystal effects or with our clear embossing powder would work good for you. Okay, so now let's move on and let's take a look at our powders and what we can do with our powders on the brings, I was just talking about it, our ribbons, to see how we can extend the life of our ribbons and customize them and have some fun with them as well. So let's put some of this aside for just a second here. And I didn't pull all of our ribbons, but I did pull a sampling. So here I have, and I'm going to grab this and turn it upside down. So I have our white ruched ribbon, and I have our really pretty lace ribbon. And it is easier to alter your lighter ribbons than it is your darker ribbons. Now, it's not totally impossible to alter some of the darker ribbons, but it is much easier to work with ribbons that are neutral or lighter in color. Here's our papaya. And then I have our Pool Party striped ribbon, and then another sneak peek for you. Oops, I'm gonna trim off the piece that I don't want you to see yet. And then look how fun that gingham is. But it's got that neutral white between it. So just an assortment of ribbons here for you. So again, back to our Stampin' Blends. Any of your ribbon can be altered by taking your Stampin' Blends and running it across the end of it, just like this, okay? Something else that you can do, let's pull this, and maybe you want black lace. And let me grab a sponge dauber. And this works with any of our ink pads. You're gonna lay it on the pad, put the dauber on your finger or something else between your finger and the pad to keep it clean. And you're just gonna pull your ribbon, and you may have to do it a few times depending on how inked up your pad is, how pastel the pad is, to get the shade that you want. But now I've got this really pretty black lace that I could be using on a card, and that works with any pad that we have to go ahead and change the color. So you can use your Stampin' Blends, and you can go ahead and then just run it through. And like I said, I like to sandwich between a dauber, and it just gives me that little extra control. So that's another way that you have to work with your ribbon. Something else that you can do, depending on the type of ribbon and how white it is, you can start to have a little bit of fun. So in this case, I'm gonna work with my bullet point, and I'm just gonna kind of play around with it. I could put lines down the center, I could zigzag it, I could start to put some dots and make some polka dot ribbon. So you can start to play. Let's grab this ribbon here for a second too, because I want to talk to you about it for just a second. So again, that same concept, I want to just kind of just add some larger pink, polished pink splashes behind it. Now, one tip for you if you're going to alter and color this ribbon here with the sequins, there is a rough side and a smooth side. I prefer to work on the smooth side, just again so I don't have that extra abrasive against my tip. And some ribbon is extremely porous, and the color is going to saturate real fast through to both sides. And some ribbon, depending on how you're using it, whether you're tying it into a bow, if both sides are going to be exposed, you may want to flip it over and take care of both sides. Pulling this ribbon in here for just a second, just showing you how nicely it takes some color. So Halloween is coming, so let's be a little traditional here with our black and our orange. So I'm just kind of going right down the center. If I really didn't want to touch the black, I could use that bullet again, that bullet tip, and I could just stick right here in the middle, doing just that, going just down the middle of the ribbon. The same thing here with our pool party. And let's pull a different color out here for just a second. That might go a little bit better. I don't want pumpkin pie with that. Let's pull, well, we've got navy here, we're gonna use it. Again, I can just kind of stick in the center lines, and I could come down and just add that color in the stripes. Of course, I can color the whole thing if I want. And you can see by using a darker color, I'm just gonna keep filling it in, that I can indeed obliterate the pool party color on that, and I can end up with navy ribbon. Same thing works on your twines. You can use your ink pads, you can use your Stampin Blends to go ahead and alter them. Something else that you're able to do with the ribbons is just like you did on your embellishments, you can take your Wink of Stella and you can paint your ribbon with your Wink of Stella to give it a pretty little glitzy look. It's actually a really pretty look to add that just subtle glimmer with your Wink of Stella, just going ahead and coating your ribbon with the Wink of Stella. That can be something really pretty to do. Yet another option for you is to dye your ribbon. You can simply take some re-inker and a little bit of water, get yourself a little bowl. Some of you may have older embellishment containers. It doesn't matter what you use for the vessel, but you want some water and you want some drops of re-inker. There is no magic formula. I can't say to you use 1 ounce of water and 3 drops of re-inker. It's going to totally be based on how dark you want the ribbon to be. In addition, how long you leave it in the water is going to totally impact how dark it turns out to be. So in this case, I had Misty Moonlight in the water. And of course, if you don't want your fingers to turn blue, you would hopefully wear some rubber gloves. But just look how pretty all that ribbon dyed just by putting it in re-inker. Now, I would be careful heat drying it, because you're going to see in a minute that using your heat tool on ribbon is another way to alter it. A lot of your ribbon, what's going to happen, we'll talk about that simultaneously. Heating your ribbon scrunches it up and gives the ribbon a whole other look. So if you want it dyed, but you don't want it scrunched up, do not use your heat tool. Instead, either let it air dry, or if you're in a hurry for it to go ahead and be dry to use on a project, pat it as dry as you can, and then put it between a tea towel and iron it dry, okay? Because again, heating your ribbon will cause it to scrunch up. I usually heat my ribbon about 1 inch to 2 inches away. And when I'm heating my ribbon, I tack one end down with tear and tape, and I just hold the heat tool until it's as wrinkly as I want it to be. And it just kind of gives you another really fun look. So one more option for those of you especially who like to drink tea or like to drink coffee, good old-fashioned tea staining is something else that's really fun to do with our ribbon. So let's pull these out. And again, like everything else, there's no magic formula. You know, sometimes it depends on what type of coffee you drink. I drink a strong black coffee. So in this case, though, my coffee was watered down a little bit. Again, it's going to depend on how long you let it sit, but look how pretty. Isn't that just beautiful, guys? This is our sparkly ribbon. It's got a really pretty neutral old look to it. Even this, look at the tan in there. And then this was our pool party ribbon. So now we've kind of made it look a little vintage. Oops, and there was a second one here. So we have 2 different ones. One that's been in a little bit longer, so this is a good example for you. Let's pull these off and put them side by side and see if you can see the difference on camera. So one's been in it for a couple of hours, and one was just recently put into the coffee. And then here is one more for you. And I'm going to pull the original out for you. And this is what started out as Pale Papaya. And look at the difference. And going back to the Pale Papaya is a really cool ribbon because it has that satin edge. And that satin edge picks up ink really, really nice. So again, if you just want to do the edge, so I just kind of want a sheer center. And I want maybe kind of a fancy ribbon for some of the Halloween projects coming. I can go ahead and do that. And again, I'm working with Pale Papaya, but again, take your polished pink, take your fresh freesia, take your soft succulent and add some evergreen to the border of it. And you're just gonna have so much fun, guys. There's so many possibilities in the world out there for altering and playing. Hopefully I gave you a few that are just jumping off points for you to get you started. I love playing around like this. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, for me, it adds value to the ribbon that I've purchased. It's gonna give me a chance to actually use it up and give me a chance to customize it to make my project look exactly the way that I want. The same thing with my embellishments. It gives me a chance to use them instead of going, oh my gosh, I don't have blue, what am I gonna do? You know what I mean? Or going without because I don't have blue, or I don't have black, or I don't have, you know, something that's kind of a beautiful vintage tan or something like that. And then I have one more for you. We'll finish this up with one more, and then I wanna see what other ideas you guys have for altering. So in this case, I had that dauber on black ink. And so now I'm going to just come in and I'm just going to use sponging. And actually I lied, I'm going to do one more after this one too. Because you know what, they're here and they're fun and they're good to do. So normally I would have a box, I call it my messy box. I usually use an empty paper pumpkin box to spritz in so it doesn't go everywhere. But so you can see it better, I have a little bit of re-inker with some alcohol and water in one of Stampin' Up spritzers. Again, guys, there's no magic formula. I know everybody wants to know how much water and how many drops. I always tell people start light. Put 1 or 2 drops in, spritz it out on paper. Is that the color that you're going for? If not, add 1 or 2 more drops. It's easier to make it darker than it is to make it lighter. But again, everybody's going for a different finished look. Obviously, you can go with a lighter version of the color, but at some point, too much re-inker in here, you're going to obliterate really what the original color was. Like if I put 20 some drops of polished pink in here, it really wouldn't look polished pink. It would probably look almost black. So I usually start with 2 to 4 drops in the Stampin' Up size re-inker. I use 90% rubbing alcohol because it dries quicker. Okay, that alcohol evaporates that much quicker. So hopefully I won't make it too much of a mess at my workspace, but we've been playing all weekend, so it needs cleaned anyway. And I'm just going to give it a little test spritz. And so if I pull that up, you're going to be able to just spritz your ribbon and add just kind of a whole nother fun look to it. I could get really crazy and come in a little tighter if I wanted with some extra dots and then do a little variegation down. I could, you know, kind of, maybe next one be a little lighter and then it'll be lighter. So just kind of playing around. So have some fun experimenting, guys. If you guys do something great as you're playing and altering, please post and share. I always love to see what you guys do with the ideas that I give you. And don't be afraid to experiment. Part of being crafty is about that exploration, about what would happen if I put it in coffee. What would happen if, I've got some actually soaking right now in red wine, which usually there's no wine left to soak in, but right now I've got some soaking in some red wine, and I'll show you those when they're finished. But I wanted to see, like, what would happen if I put it in red wine? So play around, guys. Have fun with Stampin' Up products. Have fun with your art products, guys. I know so many times we're so finished on the final project, you know, taking something from A to B, that I think sometimes we don't get messy and we miss the whole fun of just being creative in our studios and actually expanding the use and the value of what we have in our craft stash. So any questions about anything that I showed you guys, let me know. Thank you all for those of you who commented, who jumped on board, who shared. And I will see you guys tomorrow. I have 2 videos for you tomorrow as we finish up our basic series. So I will be hopping on during the day tomorrow. I will post those times in the morning for you for those of you who don't want to miss it. Of course, you can always hit the like and the notification button and the follow button, and you'll be notified anytime I'm live. So have an awesome day, guys.